Thank you all for the invitation to present this pilot study work that I have just started last semester. It is examining the dialogue of pre-service teachers within Voluntary University Club spaces established to address urban education needs. A little bit about me, like she said, I'm a former teacher, so this work is very important to me. I taught in a Title I school in an urban district for 5 years, and it was 100% free or reduced lunch, and it had over 10 languages represented. And that's just a little bit. I will share more about why this work in particular is interesting to me. So like I said, I don't know if this one. This is a pilot study, and these are some of the questions that I'm interested in learning more about right now. How does a pre-service teacher's racial, economic, and social identity inform their understanding of urban education? How do voluntary club spaces benefit pre-service teachers of all racial backgrounds as they construct their understanding of urban education? What, if any, elements are present in predominantly white pre-service teacher club spaces that are not present in required teacher preparation programs? What are the cultural values of the given pre-service teacher space? How do pre-service teachers define the space as beneficial? What affordances does involvement in these types of communities provide for pre-service teachers? And like I said, this is in progress, but I'm looking at, and I'll get to the theory, critical race theory like race, power, critical consciousness. I'm looking at their dialogues, how they make decisions and choices around what activities or what workshops they engage in that space, how they look at urban education or urban needs, and I'll talk about the themes that I've observed so far, how they situate it as other, and just my motivations for being involved in this space. First, I was invited to present within this space. I didn't know much about it, and then I saw it as of value because it's an untraditional, not a formal space, it's informal, but they are engaging in critical critical dialogue and activity. So I'll talk about that a little more. So right now, the conceptual framework or theoretical framework, some of the theories that I'm looking to guide my work are critical race theory, race identity theory, social identity theory, critical literacy and theory, looking at language as social and cultural practice, and multi-literacies. And the reason that I'm looking at critical literacy is not really all the time that they're looking at text or multimedia, but looking at it as they are coming to this meeting to engage in these conversations and these workshops as a form of literacy, and how that guides their or shapes their disposition as teachers. So in multi-literacies, like I said, it's not always that they're reading things. Sometimes they are engaging in like reading information. Sometimes they're watching videos. Sometimes it's a conversation with a teacher that's in an urban district. But I see it as a form of literacy that they as pre-service teachers are engaging in. Right now, my literature review, these are some of the works that I am interested, that really shape what I'm kind of seeing as patterns within my work. But developing cultural critical consciousness and self-reflection in pre-service teacher education by Gay and Kirkland, 2010. Pre-service teachers learning about cultural and racial diversity, Milner, 2006. Designing critical literacy education through critical discourse analysis, and that is because I'm still learning critical discourse analysis. I did not use CDA for this work. Right now I'm just doing coding, thematic analysis, but I would like to learn more about CDA and hopefully apply that to this work. And critical discourse analysis in education, and just found out about this by Rebecca Rogers. I would like to really engage in this literature. A little bit about the context. It's a Midwestern university. On average, they have anywhere from 7 to 15 participants for each session. It's student-led, more of a grassroots organization because it started in 2006, I believe, 2006. And it was started in Chicago by teachers. And to me, I'm trying to still find out if it's because they felt like it was a gap from their pre-service teacher education, like they weren't engaging in these dialogues, or what it is that they felt the need to establish this space. It's predominantly white female participants at the site that I'm studying at. From last semester, the data that I'm presenting today is from last semester, and there were 3 males, 2 white, 1 Latino, and 1 African American, and that individual was female. So, sorry, I had to speak into this. So, with that, it's voluntary. It's not like they're mandated to come to this club. It's voluntary that they come, and they want to know more about urban needs and urban education. So that's a little bit about the context. The first individuals that I will be talking about with the work today is May. She's the only African American student in the club. She assumed a major leadership role within the group. She is in her senior year, and this semester she's student teaching. She's originally from an urban city. She attended school in an urban school district, and she has been affiliated with this group for more than 2 years. So that just gives you a background of one individual. The other individual that I worked with conducted a semi-structured interview with, along with my observations, which I'll get into my methodology a little after this. She is a white female student. She's a first semester freshman last semester, history major, looking to switch into education. She's from a rural town, rural school district, and interested in a leadership role in the future within the group. So a little bit about the methodology so far. Like I said, it's a pilot study. I conducted field observations, one semi-structured interview with each participant. And so far, I've transcribed both interviews using InkScribe. And like I said, the reason that I chose the 2 individuals, one is a senior, and she is doing her student teaching this semester, and the other is a freshman. The senior was in a leadership role within that space, so I wanted to get that perspective, and I wanted to get someone that was just entering the space to see how those compare. And I did thematic analysis and coding. What I gave you all is a sample of a question that I asked both individuals. So you can see, I'll collect this back up, but I want you all to see what May I asked you. You told me about all the activities you engaged in within the club. Can you think of other ways participants find the organization beneficial? And you can read her response, but some of the things that she talks about, it's been great that the fact that these are a group of people that you can talk to and count on, not necessarily professionally, but also personally, like become friends and your colleagues, and that's very important. And then I asked her about, she mentioned the word community. Can you elaborate on that more? And she talked about some things about confiding, being able to confide with these peers, knowing that you are not alone, and that it's a caring community. With the other student, you can see on the second page, Leslie, I asked her the same question. She's the freshman student. She talked a lot about also community. They both mentioned this word community in their interview. And then I asked her to elaborate on community, just like I asked the other individual. And you can see that she goes a little bit more in depth with her answer. And she said that she builds relationships because we're all just terrified to take on such a big role of teaching, because everybody in there says that's what they want to do with their career. And I went further in that interview and kind of went away from my protocol and said, can you tell me more about when you said terrified to take on teaching? Can you elaborate on this? What do you mean by that? And she says, yeah, sure. So I know that like the anxieties of teachers in general, especially teachers who want to pursue like urban education. So that's like everyone. I don't want to say everyone, but it seems like I've heard talk of, fear of what it is to be like if I'm discriminated against, or what if I'm not good enough. And you can read further and see some of these themes that are coming up from things that she's scared to face going into urban education. This is a quote from a guest in that space, and she is a master's level student. And she said, what we don't really talk about this in my classes, and this semester I'm taking a master's level diversity course. As a college student, how do I further deepen my critical consciousness when I'm not getting it in the spaces I'm supposed to get it in? And that really just kind of like related to my question, like my research questions, like why I think this space is unique, because it is a voluntary space, and they are choosing the activities, the speakers, the things that they engage in. And this student, as well as I found in some of the interview data, some of them are feeling like they're not talking about these issues in their required coursework. Some other themes so far, preliminary themes, are the sense of community. They say it's a safe space. The value of student member voice. They really value that. They get to make decisions on what they want to engage in. Understanding of student diverse needs. Something I'm starting to see a little bit is the making meaning of urban as deficit. I feel like it's collective activism, because they are making decisions about what they want to engage in, what they want to learn. Lack of opportunities to engage in building critical consciousness outside of the space that they're talking about. And it seems to be, so far from my field observations, Black women voices are valued, because a lot of the presenters that have come in have been Black women. And also the senior student, she was the president at the time, her voice was valued a lot within that space, and they looked to her for her experiences a lot in that space. So those are just preliminary things that I'm noticing. I'm trying to figure out where to go next. Some limitations, implications are my positionality and the impact on the space. So with that, I teach undergraduate courses, and I am from an urban school district, so it's in my courses that I'm taking right now, I talk about how that is a struggle for me to just observe how they dialogue about these things and not really interject, but really keep that researcher role. And there's transient members, so sometimes some students will come, they may not come back the next semester, or they'll come to a few meetings, but not all. But there are some students that have been involved with this group for like all 4 years, or 3 or 2 years. I'm still trying to figure out if I want to go on the route of other theories, or look at how this is grassroots or activism, look at theories that talk about untraditional spaces that pre-service teachers learn within. So that's something else I'm looking forward to learning more about from you all. I'm still learning about the foundational origin and of how this all started and why it started. So that is something that I think will inform my future work. And then the so what. So why is this work so important? Again, I am a teacher, and I feel that those untraditional spaces and those not informal spaces really did shape my practice, and I think that there's not a lot of research. There is some, but about how those spaces help teachers, help shape teachers in their practice. So I feel like there's something about this being student-led and not like top-down that is very important, and I'm just really excited to learn more. And that's everything. So thank you all.